God's law is unchanging. God's law is unchangeable. God's attitude toward sin is the same. And if you want to see a picture of God's attitude toward homosexuality and what's going to happen when Romans 1 reaches its ultimate culmination and judgment comes, or when God does what he said he was going to do in the writings of Moses to nations that are defiled, that he would bring about their spewing out. Here's an illustration. Genesis 19. Way back in the beginning of human history, there's a city called Sodom. By then, homosexuality has spread everywhere. It didn't take long. You had the fall in chapter 3, and then you have a story of sexual sin that just goes raging through the rest of the book of Genesis. You have adultery, incest, rape, prostitution, homosexuality, and it just comes like crazy early on. And by the time you get to the 19th chapter of Genesis, you've got a city, Sodom, another city, Gomorrah, cities of the plain, that are basically literally defined by homosexuality, so that the word sodomite means homosexual. It's that fast that this sin has taken off. 2 angels come to Sodom in the evening in human form, which angels can do and did in the Old Testament frequently. And Lot is sitting at the gate of Sodom. Lot's living there. He chose to live there. So these angels show up. He rose to meet them, bowed down with his face to the ground. And he said, "Now behold, my lords, please turn aside into your servant's house. Spend the night, wash your feet, that you may rise early and go on your way." You got to get in my house, get cleaned up, get up in the morning, and get out of here. "No, we shall spend the night in the square," the angels say. "We're just going to stay here in the square." He urged them strongly, verse 3, so they turned aside and entered his house, and he prepared a feast for them and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. They were real physical bodies that these angels had taken on, and he showed them this kindness, and he was really trying to protect them. Before they lay down, verse 4, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, surrounded the house, both young and old, all the people from every quarter. The whole place is caught up in sodomy. The whole place, young and old, from every part of town. They have just seen 2 beautiful men show up in town. And the word is going around town, and they're ready for a mass rape. And they show up at Lot's house. And they said, "Where," verse 5, "are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us, that we may have relations with them." But they wanted to rape him, gang rape him. Lot went out to them at the doorway and shut the door behind him and said, "Please, my brothers, do not act wickedly. Do not act wickedly." And then he makes probably what he thought was a safe suggestion. "I have 2 daughters who haven't had relations with men. Please let me bring them out to you and do to them whatever you like. Only do nothing to these men insomuch as they have come under the shelter of my roof." This is kind of a stupid thing to do, but this is a kind of a perversion that has no interest in what is normal. That's how far it's gone. Maybe he felt safe. It's still a stupid thing to do. They said, "Stand aside, out of the way." Furthermore, they said, "This one came in as an alien, and already he is acting like a judge. Now we will treat you worse than them. You get out of our way, or we will do worse to you than we're about to do to them." Nice group. So they pressed hard against Lot and came near to break the door. And the angels, reached out their hands and brought Lot into the house and shut the door. And then they struck the men who were at the doorway of the house with blindness, both small and great. They all went stone blind, supernaturally. And listen to this. So they wearied themselves trying to find the doorway. What? If I had just gone blind, I think I'd be thinking about, what happened? How did I get blind? I'd be running like a madman. They're all blind, and it doesn't change anything. In their blindness, they're wearying themselves to find the door. Then the two men said to Lot, well, whom else have you here? A son-in-law and your sons and your daughters and whomever you have in the city. Bring him out of the place, for we're about to destroy this place, because their outcry has become so great before the Lord that the Lord has sent us to destroy it. That's the message, folks. You live like this, and God will send his destroying angels. And you know the rest of the story. That is precisely what happened. Verse 24, the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. He overthrew those cities and all the valley and all the inhabitants of the cities and what grew on the ground. Destroyed the whole thing. That's an illustration of how God feels about a society that affirms homosexuality and people that conduct themselves this way. From this time on, from Genesis 19 on, the word for homosexual is the word sodomy. 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 A homosexual was a sodomite. It is the Old Testament term for homosexual used in 1 Kings 14:24 and also used in Deuteronomy 23:17 and 18. And there, in Deuteronomy 23:17 and 18, it calls homosexuals sodomites and dogs. Dogs. A very graphic description of their conduct. It is preposterous to call them gay. Homosexual is clinical. Sodomite is biblical. But sinner is theological. It's a horrible thing, this sin, and it's a horrible thing for people to advocate it as normal. Tragic, tragic.